guys.
Hi, Dr. Blair.
And I'm glad you took the time to come out this evening. I hope you can come out whenever I'm in town or anyone else is in town or anybody's even near, that hopefully can bring you a message of hope, along with the reason why you better have that hope, and along with the idea that everything is over with. It's not. In fact, it's just beginning. This is something we've got to understand. I want to thank very much Brother TJ, Mr. Thomas Johnson, raconteur, industrialist, financier, historian. And I could go on and on and on. In fact, I'm still learning how much this man is doing. But one thing he's doing, he's helping to put money back into people's pockets. Money that you've already overpaid for should have been given to you anyway. And so any means possible to get that keeps you out of jail. You want to think about it. I want to thank also Sister Linda, linguist, nutritionist, historian, counselor, and many other titles that I didn't know she had. As again, I'm beginning to understand these people as I'm in their vibration. I want to thank her for all of her help. I want to thank Sister Lauren, who I just met, in fact, this morning. But I should have known before for the much work that she's done with many people that I know, and she's assisted them. And sometimes in ignorance, we don't know who our silent benefactors are for those who accomplish and more or less out front. So I want to thank her too. I want to thank Sister McCajian, who has bought lots of products for me, helped to pay my mortgage. Unfortunately, I hope that mortgage will get paid one day. I want to thank again Vicki, the young lady who brought her and is now photographing me. And if I break that camera, it's only because the Creator made me this way. And I thank you very much for your time. Hopefully, again, the tapes that will be presented here afterwards will be come through, again, Brother TJ, and then again at our center that you will buy for those who did miss it. And I want to thank again Dr. Pinckney from the University of the District of Columbia. And I never thought that I would be allowed to speak at the District of Columbia, those 13 patented colonies, at any time. But thanks to them and a group within that big complex, they invited me to speak, treated me royally to what I call some very advanced plasma scientists and quantum physicists at that university, which I was able to address. And I want to thank very much, I want to get some of the stuff out of the way down here. Thank you again for bringing two of your students who represent a great body of students there. And all of you who are here, some of which I recognize and don't recognize. I'd hope there'd be about 5 times more in your number, but I'm very grateful again, which is turning out to be the case, for quality, if I can get quantity. Your quality to take this time on a Saturday to come out and hear an old dude who's been doing it for a long time, and has always been obstinate, but not obstinate for just being obstinate. Obstinate because I stand for something, will not waver from it. And those of you who know the history know I paid dearly for that privilege and pleasure. And now it's like a vendetta. They're not going to stop, I'm not going to stop. So as long as the Creator allows me to be here, the only thing you're going to hear from me is truth. And again, if it's not truth and you can prove it to me, then please let me know, because I don't mean to tell a lie, and sometimes ignorance will let us do just that. I want to start off by saying, and I like to have this because I have a little booklet of prophecy. People say, well, what happened to your book you wrote? I had to write a little thesis in college and to get my doctorate, which now if I had to do, I wouldn't. To tell you the truth, I got so miseducated, it took me so much time to undo all the damage they did to me. But one good thing, I know the damage road, so therefore I don't have to be sidetracked anymore. But I will say this to you too, because people say, are you going to tell the truth, or when does a person tell the truth? So therefore I have something I'm going to share with you. In this dimension, there is no truth until you decide what truth is. Your truth may not be my truth, and my truth may not be yours. But that should not inhibit us from searching for the truth, nor diminish what is truth. Because by daring to establish our own truths and holding to these truths until greater wisdom manifests and supplants our present understanding of what is truth, we will ascend from involution by cycles into evolution by spirals toward ultimate truth, if consummate truth does exist. So therefore know that there is no truth until you decide what truth is. Broken down, nobody believes truth until they believe it, and you can't believe it until you know it, and the only way to know it is from within. Other than that, I give you facts. I'm not going to here to give you truths. I'm going to give you facts. Hopefully within you, your facts may match mine, and we'll both find truth. If we had that truth a little bit earlier, we may not be in the position we're in now. At this particular time, there are wars and rumors of wars, there are earthquakes in diverse places, there are tornadoes going everywhere, there are flowers blooming out of season, animals not bearing their young, disappearing species. In fact, if I didn't know better, I think I was making biblical quotes, Al-Quranic quotes, Pahova quotes, and from the Upanishads, quotes from the Vedas. Simply because all these things are happening and more at this particular time. Tornadoes everywhere. Earthquakes and earth tremors everywhere. Tsunamis, droughts, floods, fires, pestilence, killings right and left, and just a whole plethora of things that don't seem to be good at all. And in the midst of all of that, there's still love, there's still beauty, there's still anxiety, there's still wantonness, there's still giving, there's still everything that makes adjectives possible, verbs understandable, and nouns assimilable. We are then products now of an inner dimension, and what we choose to have is what we pull from within. What is being manipulated is the very atmosphere around us, in every means possible. When you get coming to a country, the head of states of the Church of Rome, representing probably 1.5 billion people, coming here and touring in his entourage, winding up in Central Park as he always does, and then going to Wright-Patmos Air Force Base, you see some very interesting things. You have the Dalai Lama, the king, that represents possibly 2 billion people. Who knows? Because in many cases, the people there are more quiet in to their adversaries and in their inquiries into truth. You have him coming into Chicago, following in your president, and some of the people who attend him, all coming into Chicago. And I live in Chicago, and I know that that place is a Duke's mixture of everything good and bad, all pulled together. But then 252 major cities in the United States can almost be by that example, because everything now is a matter of choice. But just before the Pope came, you had Cardinal Balducci, who represents the Pope, addressing both the UN and addressing the public media, and making an exclamation that possibly Catholics should begin to embrace extraterrestrials. Catholics should maybe begin to understand that there is a brotherhood, and they did not commit original sin, that's why they're not Catholics, but they might be embraceable. Huh? Then heard a man by the name of Jose Funes, who is the head astronomer there, astronomer at the Vatican, Arizona Observatory, make a statement that there may be another heavenly body around, that there may be something coming in the sky, that there may be something, as many of the ones at Palomar and other places more readily understandable, something may be happening to our solar system, something may be happening to our planet, and maybe we should look into that. Isn't it interesting that a religious institution has its own observatories too, both in Italy and here in the United States, as though the ones that are already put up here by foundations and universities were not enough to give them what they needed to have, and so they wanted verification. They wanted truth, not facts. So the fact that they presented, they can believe, so now they have their own observers saying, we got something out here in the sky. Don't know what it could be, but we have it. Well, to go along with all these wonderful things that NASA says is happening, and did you know that NASA has admitted that the great big space platform, the interplanetary space platform, the world space platform, the international sphere up there is being attacked by ants? I didn't know about uncles and nephews, but the ants were sure there. Oh, aunt. Sometimes I get auntly wrong, you know. But these ants are metal eaters. These ants eat the cable, the conduit, and they get to the wires, and they're short-circuiting things. Because who ever heard of an ant having something coming that can melt metal and get to the wires in the space platform, and in space shuttles, and in NASA itself? Huh? Ants. Read about ants attacking villages now in Australia and parts of Africa, parts of Japan. I haven't heard that on the news, have you? Ants, little things like that. What can a little thing do? How can a little thing live in space? We can't. They don't have oxygen masks or oxygen tents. They have something that adapts. I don't understand. Nobody knows what's happening to the bees, but the bees. Nobody asked the bees, where did you go? They said, we don't see you. And then they talk about Roundup and Gaucho. Nobody talks about the contrails spread by planes that take off every day, because the contrail is something that exhausts about 12 feet behind the plane. It's from moisture that ices up and forms particulation as it flies at any place about maybe 13,000 feet. And I've seen these contrails from these planes flying at 70,000 feet, 75,000 feet. Normal Mach Nix, no way to fly, but I've seen them fly. And these contrails that are supposed to go out 12 feet behind iced up fuselage particles are miles long, across from horizon to horizon. I watched them 16 years ago. 16 years ago. And I talked about it because I was a black man, and only Williams and Carnicom, white men, were being understood when they talked about it. I say, well, it doesn't make sense to me, but the little bit I understand, what's going to go from horizon to horizon that's called a contrail? I said, that's not a contrail. Well, now nobody talks about it. But during 9/11, when all commercial and private planes were grounded, and as they were flying a certain person out of the country, there was chemtrails being spread. Now, I guess these weren't commercial or non-commercial planes, because whatever they were flying over all 252 American cities, and they have never stopped. They don't stop for holidays, Christmas, Easter, holy days, nothing. They just spray. And they're not spraying chemtrails, they're spraying chemical, biological trails, because sometimes it's biological that you're breathing, and sometimes it's chemicals that you're breathing every day. And I want to make sure about something too, because they told me something. I don't believe it, but I want to find the truth. Do all of you in here breathe? Is there anyone here that does not breathe? Well, then you all are breathers. What do you breathe? Somebody tell me, what do you breathe? Air. And if you don't have air in your lungs, what happens? Eventually. So we all breathe, right? Okay. Do you know what's in the air you're breathing? Good. That's very good. Yeah. They think so. I don't know about how much oxygen. The same thing that's being sprayed 70,000 feet above you is what you breathe the next day or later on in the day. And in that is titanium, barium, aluminum, non-human T cells, manure, and anything else that they choose to spray on you, because they're not spraying you. Those are chemicals, iced up water particles over a fuselage from a plane that just took off, called a contrail. There must be, because no government, city, municipal, county, state, or federal knows anything about it. So who's higher than your federal government? Who's higher than your state government? Who's higher than your county government? Who's higher than your municipal government? Or the head of your house, or your church, or wherever else? That sprays anywhere and everywhere, and it's not just in 252 major cities in the United States, it's all over this planet. Let me repeat again for those who don't get the picture. It's all over this planet. No country is spared, no island is spared. You will hit some kind of contrails up there. We've had a lot of strange weather recently. I think used to be you talked about the weather when you couldn't talk about anything else. Now you talk about the weather because there's nothing else to talk about. Because the investment in commodities, futures, and stock exchanges are all based on weather, and things are supposed to have a pattern so you can invest in the future and understand what you're doing. People don't like to go walking too much in the rain. A few people are nuts as I am, you will do it for cleanliness, or you just do it because the water makes you feel good. But water too much floods away crops, erodes basement foundations, makes waters and rivers and oceans stream over and flood. Too much drought causes crops not to grow, causes things that you want to speculate on not to be able to do. So we must have a balance on this planet for anything to happen, and we're not getting a balance nowadays. We're getting extremes of weather.